Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening for the 2021 Garden City Community College Board of Trustees Forum, hosted by the Garden City Area Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber Government Affairs Committee. This forum is being broadcast live on City Channel 8 and on the Chamber's Facebook page. My name is Dr. Bill Clifford. I currently serve as the chairman of the Chamber Government Affairs Committee, and I am the moderator for tonight's event. Joining me to keep track of time is Micah Bunch, president of the Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, we welcome the following candidates who seek election to the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees: Dr. Blake Rossinger, Mr. Leonard Hitz, Mr. Mark Douglas, Mr. Mark Hind, Dr. Marilyn Douglas, and Coach Robert Larson. Candidates, thank you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The process for tonight's 90-minute forum will begin with each candidate providing a 2-minute opening statement, followed by a question and answer session. It will conclude with a 2-minute closing statement. The order of candidate introductions was drawn at random, and that order will be reversed on the closing statements. Each candidate will be allowed 90 seconds to respond to the questions. The order of candidate responses will rotate with each new question. Micah will notify you with the yellow flag when you have 30 seconds remaining, and we'll cut you off with the red flag when your time is up. This is a closed question format for the forum. No rebuttal questions or answers will be permitted. No questions will be taken from the audience, and we do ask that the audience refrain from clapping or in any way interfering with the forum. Without further delay, let's begin tonight's program. Candidates, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll begin with a 2-minute opening statement with Dr. Marilyn Douglas.
Thank you very much. I would like to extend my appreciation to the Garden City Chamber of Commerce for organizing these events. They always do a good job. Especially, I wanted to say thank you to President Micah Bunch. She provides leadership with a personal touch, which I really appreciate. I am a family nurse practitioner. I've been here in Garden City for 25 years. I've been a nurse for over 40 years. I started in the RN program at a community college in Montana. My nursing career also includes being adjunct faculty for KU School of Nursing, and I was also the clinical site coordinator for the family nurse practitioner program when we had a campus here in Garden City. I am a trustee, and I've been on the board now for 12 years. I'm very proud of that. I'm currently the chairman for this past year, and I also had previous chairmanship experience for 3 years. I'm proud to report that I'm married to Steve Douglas. We've been married 25 years, yay. He is the co-owner of D.V. Douglas Roofing. We have 5 children and 11 grandchildren. The first thing that I want to establish is that I firmly believe in positive professional campaigns. I will not participate in any name-calling, giving false accusations, or trying to shed any negative light on any candidate. Those types of tactics are unattractive and unprofessional. I want my voters to know my positives. So what is the qualities that I bring to this election? Experience. More importantly, higher learning commission experience. That is the most important thing at Garden City Community College, is to maintain that accreditation. The second thing that I bring is my trustworthiness. My profession of nursing has been chosen as the most trusted profession in the Gallup poll, and it puts me in that position to be trustworthy.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Coach Larson, you're next.
Thank you very much. My name is Bob Larson. Many of you might know me as Coach Larson. I am on the ballot as Robert Larson. We have lived here in Garden City for 27 years. My wife, Barb, and I have both taught at Garden City Community Junior College. She was there for 14 years as a reading specialist, as well as an accommodations coordinator. I was there 19 years. I taught anatomy and physiology. I coached football, and the last 9 years, I was athletic director at the college. When Greg McVeigh unexpectedly resigned in October of 2020, I was asked to come back and finish the semester, and I did so November and December of 2020. Both Barb and I have been blessed beyond belief. In 2009/10, Barb was nominated Outstanding Faculty Member. I was named Coach of the Year in 1999 as well as 2000. And I am inducted into the 2020 Garden City Community College Hall of Fame. That will probably be held April 22nd of 2022, thanks to the pandemic. I believe that all of us are given gifts by the Lord God Almighty. One of my gifts, I believe, is the heart of a servant leader. I believe that 34 years of coaching college football has blessed me with the ability to resolve problems when they occur. That is on the football field, in the classroom, and even in budget meetings at the college. I do appreciate your time considering me tonight for this position. Thank you.
Dr. Rossinger, you're next.
Okay, thank you. And I would just like to share my gratitude to everyone that came out here tonight that put their name on the ballot. My name is Blake Rossinger, and I am currently on the board of trustees for Garden City Community College. Served as chair a few years, have been on for almost 6 years as an unexpired term, and then got voted in last election. But, you know, I'll save some of the whys of why I'm running, hopefully as it comes on. Obviously experience and knowledge of accreditation, the processes of balanced budget, things like that. Hopefully I can go into a little bit more. But I'm not from Garden City originally, but I'm from Western Kansas. Have been here almost 10 years with my lovely wife, Teresa, who's supported me all through this. I've got 2 children, and they're my wife for a lot of things. But I'll continue to do what I can do for this board, and namely, that's take care of controlling myself and my actions. I want, as again, thank you for everyone that's put their name on the ballot. It takes a lot of courage, and it's not always the most popular thing. But I truly believe the diversity and the differences that everyone brings to this election is what makes businesses, community colleges, school boards, whatever you want to talk about, stronger in the long run. So again, I just appreciate everyone here, and I will let my time go for the rest of it.
Thank you, Dr. Rossinger. We'll next hear from Mr. Mark Douglas.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to address the personal attacks on myself and Leonard over the weekend. I was disgusted to see the sign out on the highway. There's no room for that kind of behavior in any election. So I kind of want to thank them because, as you know, and we know who they are, my phone and text all weekend was nothing but support, even people I didn't even know. So none of that should have ever happened and continue to happen. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to start. I was born and raised in Garden City, graduated from Garden City High School in 1971, graduated from Garden City Community College in 1973, played 2 years of baseball, which in fact, I was a part of a group of high school athletes and college athletes at the time to get baseball approved at the college with the help of the track coach Dale Metters, which now we've got probably the best stadium in the conference, and we've got one of the best teams in the conference. So I feel very proud to be on the very first part of that. I was on the BAA Board of Directors for 12 years. The last 4 years, I was president. I worked with 3 ADs, and one of them was Bob Larson. And I just have to say, if anybody needs to be elected, it's him for what he gave to Garden City Community College over the years. My wife Tony and I been married for 40 years. We have been host families for several years for many student athletes. We are currently hosting a member of the women's basketball team. Her assistant coach was here 4 or 5 years ago, and she called us last spring when she decided she was going to come to Garden City. Nope. Okay.
So remind candidates
I'm
that
not
they
done
only
yet.
have 2 minutes, but you can...
That was 2 minutes?
That was 2. We'll now hear from Mr. Mark Hind.
It goes quick.
It does.
It goes quick, doesn't it? Well, good evening. I'm Mark Hind. I came to Garden City in September of 1991 to take a position with Southwest Developmental Services Incorporated, more commonly referred to in town as SDSI. In September of 1997, I was offered and accepted the position of President and CEO, which I still hold today. So I've been a resident of Garden City for over 30 years now. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Kansas State University. I have a Master of Science in Management from Friends University. I'm running for the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees to serve the community, to give back to the community that's been so good to myself, my family, and my friends. I'm running for the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees because I have a passion to help those others to succeed, to be successful, and achieve skill sets that they can use to better life for themselves, their friends, their family, and the community. I believe that can be obtained here at Garden City Community College. I believe it is being obtained here. I believe I have the knowledge, expertise, experience, and wisdom to take to the boardroom to help Garden City Community College move forward and achieve its mission of producing positive contributors to the economic and social well-being of society. My wife Linda and I have been married for nearly 23 years now. Between the two of us, we have 7 children, 18 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren. Some of these children and grandchildren have graduated from Garden City Community College. Several of the younger grandchildren and all of the great-grandchildren live in the Garden City area, and Linda and I would both like to see Garden City Community College as a viable option for them should they choose to do that. And I'd like to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mark. We'll now hear from Mr. Leonard Hitz.
Obviously, my name is Leonard Hitz. I've been involved with Garden City Community College since moving here in 1976. My hope for Garden City Community College has always been to be the shining light at the top of the hill. I believe we have the best faculty, staff, and employees of all community colleges in the country. Not only are they preparing students for a formal 4-year degree, they are also opportunity for those who do not desire a 4-year formal degree. We're preparing those who want to further their academic education with courses that will transfer to 4-year universities. By partnering with major universities, we're making their transition easier by giving them stepping stones to the institutions. We also are providing opportunities to those students that do not want to go to a 4-year but have a trade that will let them enter the workforce as trained professionals. Some of the new programs that are being developed, I could go through and name all of them we had, but it would take too long and you're cutting me short on time. New programs that are also being developed right now are dental assistant, robotics, cybersecurity, crop production. I asked President Ruda, what is our priority? He responded, students. I agree, but as a trustee, I have to balance that priority of students with my responsibility to my owners, the taxpayer. Finally, and I'm directing this directly to those people who want to attack us. Finally, to the cowards that want to attack Mark and I with slanderous false claims on outright lies, I say to you, you are blatant cowards. Your cowardly ways are disseminating throughout our community. Have the courage to quit hiding behind anonymous sources. This is nothing more than the rehashing of 4 years ago. Attack me with this if you have to attack me. If my God and my Savior Jesus Christ want me on the board, I will be there. Nothing that your hateful lies can ever do or your fabricated tales will ever prevail. I know who you are, so face me openly with the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Hitz. And all candidates, thank you for your opening statements. At this time, we'll begin the question and answer portion of tonight's forum. As previously stated, each candidate will be allowed 90 seconds with a similar timing of 30 seconds and stop. We drew names at random and we'll begin questioning with Mark Douglas. First question, why did you decide to be a candidate for Garden City Community College Board of Trustees, and why should voters elect you? Mark?
Okay. Well, being a graduate of Garden City Community College and being part of the sports programs out there was part of it. And professionally, we've roofed a lot of the new buildings and existing buildings out there. And being involved with the students and everything like that, I just thought it was time to give back. Plus, I believe everybody, one time in their life, should perform a public service. And so I think this is my time because I've been so involved with the college for the last 40 years that it's my time to give back to them and see what I can do to help them.
Thank you, Mark. Following his comments, Coach Larson.
Well, once again, I believe it's a great question. I really do think you've got a tremendous group to select from. Again, I would say basically my civic duty to try and help where I can. It kind of goes right along with having a servant leader's attitude. And again, I've spent 19 years at the college. I think it's a tremendous place and a great opportunity for young people to come and get their feet wet in college.
Thank you, Coach Larson. Next, Mark Hind.
I think I hit on a few points there when I in my opening statement about why I'm running. I'm running to serve the community. I believe public service is very important. My father, I grew up in a little town by the name of Cassidy. It's in the Flint Hills between El Dorado and Emporia. My father served as the mayor, served as on the city council, did all kinds of things in that public service. You know, it was part of what we learned. I was a Boy Scout. I was in 4-H. I just believe that's a part of life. I believe there's a lot of people that will sit back and not do that, but I believe it's important to do that. Also, the student success is something that's very important to me. Student success can mean many things at Garden City Community College or at any college. You have the sports, you have the academic, you have the technical side of it. And then what we want to produce there is, again, the economic and social positive contributors to it. And in that, you want to make sure that folks have a well-rounded education, the ability to participate in sports and other activities that hopefully will make them a very good person in the future to serve in the community at their job and in other things in the community.
Thank you, Mark. Let's hear from Dr. Rossinger.
Thank you. Education, flat out, it's opened up doors for me. It opens up doors for everyone. There's a lot of things that contribute to student success. Obviously, we love the athletics, and if that helps them get an education, then that's great. We need to focus on education, and just like Mark's even addressed, it's not so much that, or Leonard, that they need to go to a four-year university. Those individuals will probably be successful whether they choose Garden City Community College or another community college, and that's great. The transfer rates are even better now than ever, but again, some of that why, obviously the accreditation. We want to make sure, we were on probation, we never lost accreditation, a big difference, but we want to make sure that we're on target, and we absolutely are. But I hold some history and some knowledge that accreditation or that we can help with. But not only that, the why, workforce development, keeping Garden City Community College at the forefront of workforce development for Garden City. We need to keep those individuals here in Garden City and build Garden City. And by doing that with some of those trades and having programs that really build careers for young individuals that may not have thought ever college was right for them, it gives them a career and not live in poverty and really can benefit our community as a whole.
Thank you. Next, Marilyn Douglas.
Thanks. The first thing I would say is that Garden City Community College is a gem in our community, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, think of how many students have attended the college, how many students have gained knowledge, have matured, have graduated. Think of the economic development for our community. So I think it's all of our responsibility to support Garden City Community College in whatever avenue you can create. For me, it's about being a trustee. So the second thing that I like to remind people of is exactly what Dr. Rossinger talked about. HLC accreditation is extremely important. I have experience in history with dealing with the accreditation visit and going through what happened with the probationary status and then our reinsertion of our accreditation. And I want to continue that for the next visit that's coming up in 2022. The last thing that I would say is that we have new directions that we're going in, and I want to be a part of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Mr. Hitz, you won't always go last, but you're up for this question.
I'm running for Garden City Community College because I believe in Garden City Community College. It is an integral part of the economy of Finney County and Garden City. I made my home in Garden City in 1976. At that time, Garden City had the reputation of a city that was progressive and on the move. A fact sheet for fiscal year 2016-2017 showed that the college had an annual economic impact of $77.3 million a year. We supported 1,418 jobs. These numbers were 4 years ago, and they've obviously increased. It's important for the voters to know the impact that the college has and all that we provide. Over the past 8 years, the college has had many challenges, the subject of accreditation, of course, and being placed on probation with sanctions first occurred in October 16, 2016. I was told by an HLC rep that some of the blame for the probation could be attributed to the dereliction of duty on the part of the board. The board forgot their responsibility of oversight, grievances were filed and dismissed without question. The board has since taken steps to keep themselves informed on the accreditation. While driving the bus, I was constantly hearing complaints and concerns about the negative treatment faculty and staff were experiencing on campus. When I asked one person to give me a one-word description of the mood on campus, that one word was contentious.
Your time is up. Thank you. And I'll remind candidates, if you want me to repeat the question in case your mind drifts, please feel free to ask. Our second question, the Garden City Community College trustees utilize policy governance as its model for board governance. Please discuss your views of policy governance. We'll begin with Coach Robert Larson.
Well, again, I believe it's put in. My understanding of it is so that whoever is sitting on the board doesn't have an axe to grind and be able to go out and do whatever they want to do, because the board is really, they have one employee, and that would be the president of the college. The real owners of the college here in Garden City, Kansas, is the taxpayers and the people that live in Finney County. And so they are the ones that need to be able to, just as Leonard was talking about there, being able to tell when something needs to be changed. What we do, or what the board, I should say, does, is basically allow the president and his underlings to basically be able to move forward with whatever they want to do, or not, because we are responsible to the taxpayers of Finney County, and how we spend their money is important.
Thank you, Coach Larson. Mr. Hind?
Yes, my understanding of the policy governance, and I don't claim to know it real well, but serving where I have a board of directors as a nonprofit at SDSI, I'm accountable to that board of directors, and I'm their employee. I think at the college it's a very similar approach to that. I think you give for instance, the administrator, the President Ruda, the ability to do things as long as it's prudent, ethical, and legal, He can do those things. We may not, at work, one thing we do at SDSI, we lots of times we'll talk about begin with the end in mind. Hey, as long as you're prudent, ethical, and legal, and you get there, we may take a different path if I'm championing the cause or someone else. So my understanding of the policy governance is going to deal with we are accountable as board of trustees to the owners, and some of the things I'm saying has already been said, but to the owners, which is the citizens, the taxpayers of Phoenix County. And we have also responsibility to ensure that the administration has a job that they're doing and that they are following certain guidelines to do that.
Thank you. And now hear from Dr. Blake Rossinger.
Okay, thank you. So the idea, concept of policy governance isn't out there. It isn't strange, and quite honestly, the one employee is not true to policy governance. That's a lot of different boards are like that. But the nice thing about policy governance, it gives the latitude and the structure just to that our one employee has the ability that we can, through policies, either confine him down to, or that individual to a very directive point, or give him the latitude of doing things, and by that, then we get reports back. And as long as it fits into that category of realm, we have no quorums with it. And it's kind of like the idea, as long as we get to the end, there may be paths. That's how businesses run. It's not a straight A, B, C, D all the time. And so it just runs smoothly. And I would say the other big part of it is it's not micromanaging. We don't pick the color of the paint or what goes on. Again, none of us would probably have the realm of idea of how to run a college, but our backgrounds give us some insight. But that's Dr. Ruda and his administration's job, is to do all those detail things. As long as it fits into those categories and it's not unethical or illegal, then he has full reins of that. Now, we can hone that down if we don't see it happening that way.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Douglas.
Yeah, policy governance in simple terms is results oriented. In other words, we expect results from our administration. The board sets the policies and those end results, but we give the latitude to the president to create the paths to achieve those results. We monitor his progress and his results. I love policy governance. It's another one of those things that I'm very proud of. And I have been the policy governance officer for the past 3 years for the board. In that capacity, I review our document on a monthly basis, and I make recommendations to the board, and we discuss them as a board to decide if our document needs to be updated or it needs additions. And for that reason, I think it's a nice fluid document that works really well. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Mr. Leonard Hitz.
The policy governance that we have, the John Carver policy governance, to me, it's pretty hard to follow. If you want to follow it directly and exactly to the point, you have to have the mind of John Carver. If you want to follow it directly to the point as Lon Pishney would see it, you'd have to have the mind of Lon Pishney. It says that we have one employee that we are responsible for, and that's the president. The problem in this, there have been times in the past where I know of a previous trustee that was asked, what do you do if you have an overrun in expenses? The response was, we don't worry about that. We let the president take care of that. Now, if that's not the fox putting in charge of the hen house, I don't know what is. It's too easy to get off track with this policy governance. It's difficult sometimes to understand, and if you're going to understand it and minister exactly like it is, again, you have to have the mind of the man that wrote it, and I don't have that mind.
Thank you, Ms. Hitz. Mr. Mark Douglas.
Okay. A lot has been said. I agree with a lot of it. The problem I see with policy governance is every part of it everybody has to do the right thing. But when you have one of those elements that aren't doing the right thing and are not checked, then it becomes a problem. But other than that, long as we, as a trustee, I believe we should have to say in a lot more things than what we are allowed to. I just think that we are elected to take care of the college, and I don't care what or who's damaging the college, we need to take care of it. But as long as everybody's doing their part, I can see it working.
Thank you. We'll go on to our third question. So number 3, how do you view the college's response and planning in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic? And we'll begin with Mr. Mark Hind.
I believe the college has probably been very responsible in their response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's not been easy for any institution, whether that be K through 12 here in Garden City, anywhere else across the state of Kansas, across the nation. I think you have two sides to this. You have the CDC saying what they're saying. You also have folks who don't want a mask. So what they've done, I think, is responsible. I think by looking to the CDC, looking to organizations like that following those guidelines has been something that they need to do and have done, I believe.
Thank you.
I think we're in phase 3 right now. Am I right?
Would you like to extend your remarks?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Saving us time. Dr. Rossinger, you're next.
Well, I was part of, I was chair when COVID hit and had lots of conversations with Dr. Ruda. And I will tell you that it was an ever-evolving learning experience for the board, for the administration. And I realize we don't have everything figured out. And, you know, Dr. Ruda had said, especially going into this semester, that the certain mandates that were in place, and the reason for that was to keep students in the classroom. And I have to truly believe that students learn better in the classroom. At certain costs, there is that responsibility for us to take care of students. And it is really difficult to learn online. It's difficult for the young individuals, but it's still difficult for college classes. College classes are always difficult if you can't get a hold of the teacher, and there are things in place. You know, I think we were ahead of the game, and we just didn't know it. We had online books available. Cengage contract was an amazing opportunity that we got in at the forefront. We had things in place for something like this. We just didn't know it, and then it came about. And you know what? I think we handled it as good as any college, any university within the state of Kansas and the United States, hands down.
Thank you. But Dr. Marilyn Douglas, same question.
Yeah. As the board, we supported President Ruda's decisions regarding his team that helped to implement all of the things that needed to be put in place to take care of students during the pandemic. And that included hybrid classes, updating and executing online classes, Zoom meetings, arranging for isolation and quarantine quarters for the students, testing capabilities, tracking capabilities. So I think we did an excellent job, and I would attribute or give credit to Patricia Miller, who headed that committee, as well as some of her staff. The other thing that kind of came out as a bonus is all of the CARES money and the funding that the college got to take advantage of. So I give credit to Dr. Ruda for paying attention to those opportunities and being able to get money in for the campus for more IT equipment, more staffing, and that is all because the board has a policy to say, President Ruda, you need to keep the campus safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hitz.
You know, this was something that was new to all of us, and I think that we were very fortunate to have people like Trish Miller that understood more about what COVID was. I didn't have any idea. I know that in my mind, Dr. Ruda threw all the way down. Everybody did what they were told to do to try and make it safe on campus. I couldn't have been any help in telling anyone how to handle this, because that's not my profession. But I do believe that we were fortunate to have the people that we had on staff that were able to come in, pick up the ball with Dr. Ruda and get it straightened out to the best of their ability.
Mr. Douglas?
Okay. Yeah, I think the college handled it very well. I'm on campus a lot because of the roofs and things like that, and talking with Derek, and he would let me know what was happening from week to week, and I think the college was ahead of the game on everything by the mask mandate, pulling them out of classes when needed to be. But I still think we need to be careful and keep everything in place for at least the rest of this year.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Now proceed to the fourth question. After hearing from Coach Larson.
Thought you were going to get off of that.
That's all right. That's all right.
We
Well,
held
this
your
one,
time.
this one, I'm
Again.
actually kind of proud of because, again, as I said, I was the athletic director acting November and December, and then because the NJCAA pushed all sports to one semester, they asked me to stay on and help do that in just a low level. I mean, I did things like I went to every COVID meeting we had once a week, and these guys are right. It was phenomenal to see how well we took care of the people that were sick, how we found out, connections of who were you with for more than 10 minutes. To run all of that, teams being isolated. It was just, hats off. Trish Miller did an excellent job. Ali, our head trainer, athletic trainer, amazing. Took care of all these kids. I even actually, one of my jobs was to go and do the spit test. How fun is that, everybody? But we were trying to do everything we could. We did 30 student athletes a week. To make sure that they were okay, and it was. I'm kind of proud to say that I was able to be there to help in that situation. They did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 4. As a board, it is important to speak with one voice. How will you convey information to the public if the decision of the board differs from how you voted on a particular item? We'll begin with Dr. Rossinger.
Thank you. Well, quite honestly, after the board has made a decision, I view that as the board's made a decision, and there's really nothing more to discuss about that. And now I can say that I didn't agree with that, but as far as going on about, well, I didn't like this and because of this and that, that's not speaking with one voice. You're professional and you're on a board, and when the vote doesn't go your way, then you move on because it was a majority vote. We're not out there to antagonize or put down another board member or say anything differently. It is a one voice after the vote has been casted or been brought up, and it's been voted on and it passes. It's done with, and we move on.
Thank you. Dr. Marilyn Douglas.
That is one of the principal tenets of the instruction from ACCT, Association of Community Colleges of Trustees. One voice, one board. Once a board makes a decision, then all of the trustees need to voice the same decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Next, Mr. Hitz.
Well, that's kind of an easy thing to answer. You can go into executive session and you can discuss it among all of you. You have a choice of voting yes or no, or abstaining. However that vote comes out, if it's a deciding factor, then you go out and you go along with it. You don't lay on the floor and kick your feet because you didn't get your way. If the board votes and it's a majority of the board that votes on it, that's it. It's over with, done. The decision's made.
Thank you, Leonard. Mr. Douglas?
Okay. I tend to agree, majority always rules. We're not ever going to, everybody's going to agree every time on every subject. But once there is a vote, you have to go with it and go on. But you can explain your reasoning why you either voted for it or against it. So I agree that that's the way it has to be.
Thank you. Coach Larson?
Well, this is kind of a team question here. I mean, it's what pulls a team together, or it can divide a team in 2, 3, 4 different selections. Yeah, you have to, just as everyone's saying, you get your right to voice your opinion and voice your opinion strongly. I know that when we played with 10 out-of-staters and Coach Perryman would allow me to bring in 16, that meant I had to redshirt 6. Well, that can be a little, hair splitting when you have to make a decision in August. And you have to be together. You have to be together. Again, voice your opinion as much as you want, but when you leave that war room, you have all got to be together.
Thank you. Mr. Hind?
Yeah, this is a team question, it appears to be. When you have an opportunity in a board meeting to discuss and convey your opinion about whatever the subject matter may be, and everyone has that ability, and it has been said here previously by some of the other folks that you can do that adamantly. You can do it hopefully you do it in a professional way, though. And then when it's all said and done, you have a decision that's made, and that's made by the majority of the board. So when you come out of that meeting, hey, whether it's something that's discussed in executive session, action taken in open meeting, or whether it's something discussed in open meeting and action taken in open meeting, it doesn't matter. When it comes down to it, I believe the important thing is that board does act as one, and that voice needs to come from that. You can, as a board member, if you disagree with it, sure, you can talk to the folks that hey, you're accountable to the taxpayers of Phoenix County. Somebody may ask you why you did what you did, why you voted the way you did. Well, you can explain that. But again, you need to do that in a professional manner as well.
Thank you all. We'll go on to our 5th question now. In development of a budget, what would guide your decision-making as a board member? And we'll begin with Dr. Marilyn Douglas.
Each year, the board participates in a retreat to look at budget requests, the budget that's prepared by the CFO and the president. So we really rely on President to give us the information to fulfill the budget. We look at information such as the tax valuations and what's the expected revenue. We look at the programs that we are funding. We look at capital equipment, capital outlay, and things that we are trying to purchase. All of that information is actually collected and summarized by the chief financial officer, and then we as a board discuss how we will accept or reject her budget proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard Hitz, you're next.
The first thing that you probably want to do is look at what you did in the past. And the biggest thing you have to do is compare your income to the expenses. That's one thing in the bank that we always had to do. We always had to know what our income was going to be and what the expenses were expected, and you didn't ever spend more money than you had coming in. You look at what are the priorities, and are these priorities that are requested, are they justified? You compare the income to the expense, and this person wants a lot more shoulder pads than he really needs. You have to say, no, I don't think we need to get in there. You have to decide what really is important, and you have to have priorities that you're going to put in place when you start making your budget. But you got to have the income, and you got to have it more than the expenses.
Thank you, Leonard. Now, Mr. Mark Douglas.
Okay, I kind of agree with Leonard. It's kind of like running a business. You have to make more money than you spend, and there's come a time when you have to say no to some people and you don't want to. But there's times when you have to spend money because it's the right thing to do, whether it's for buildings, for repairs, whatever it is. But a budget, I think, is probably the most important thing the college has to decide year in and year out. And it just comes down to, can we afford this or can we not? And then at the end of it all, you have to decide that this is what the budget's going to be.
Thank you, Coach. Robert Larson.
Well, again, I know how important budgets are. Being an athletic director, you always have coaches that need those shoulder pads or helmets or volleyballs or track shoes or whatever. But what has been said is exactly right. You have to prioritize. You have to make sure that you do have income enough to pay, enough to grow and build, because Mark, just like he said, it is a business. It really is a business because you can't give away education for free. It basically comes down to priorities and looking to see what income is coming in as compared to what might be going out. And that would be the strongest words I could say about budgets, but decisions do have to be made.
Thank you, Coach Larson. Mr. Mark Hind.
Well, when developing a budget, of course, there's a number of things you have to look at. There's a number of folks in an organization the size of Garden City Community College that I would assume Dr. Root and the CFO are reaching out to in the management in the different divisions, different organizations there, looking at the capital needs, looking at the operating expenses, and so on. So overall, when you're looking at that, my thought would be they'd be coming back to the Board of Trustees, the president, the CFO, and presenting what they have. You got a revenue side of it, you have the operating expenses, you have capital needs, and you also, in this case, I think probably have possibility of some reserves. Are we where we need to be with reserves? And the other side of that is at some times you can dip into reserves if they are large enough and if you need them. So looking at these different things there, and again, the capital items is one thing that has to be brought into play across the board with the college, as well as infrastructure there too, which of course is part of the capital needs. But those are things in operating a budget, and hey, I've done that with SDSI, and we've done that for a number of years, and it's one thing that you take to the board, and that's, as a board, of course, there's questions asked, and I would think the trustees would be asking questions just to ensure they understand what's being brought in front of them.
Thank you. Finally, Dr. Blake Rossinger.
Yeah, thank you. Well, budget is one of the backbones of the college, and quite honestly, I will say this: in our last site visit, we've had a marvelous fiscal record, never in question. And if you really look at most of accreditation issues, it's usually through the fiscal irresponsibilities of the board or the college in itself. We have we have a great CFO. They bring us information, and I would deviate from some of the candidates in that we don't worry about the pads and we don't worry about the shoes, because that is getting down into the weeds, and we're policy governance and we're the overview. They come to us with a budget and say they need this much. Now it's our job to say, well, what can you do with 10% reduction across the board or 10% reduction over here? Because we do have to make it a balance. It is a business, and we do have to have more money coming in than out. I'm a big proponent of reserves. I think we should keep growing our reserves because of things like COVID. We do not know, but we also have the flexibility and the latitude of jumping into something if we find a program. But finding alternative funding helps out, and taking the burden off of taxpayers with the mill rates. Those are important things that, quite honestly, go all into the budget, and we do get updated on that, and we do have a solid budget, and I am proud of that as far as a trustee goes.
Thank you. We'll move on to our sixth question. How should Garden City Community College trustees engage with the community and get stakeholder input to inform workforce development and training needs at the college? We'll begin with Mr. Leonard Hitz.
Would you repeat the last part of that question, please?
Yes. How can you get stakeholder input to inform workforce development and training at the college?
And how are the trustees supposed to involve themselves? Is that your
Correct.
question?
Correct.
Well, I think there's only one big way, and that's getting involved yourself. I spend a lot of time out on campus going around looking and talking to people. If there's something that's needed out there, I'm in favor of it being there if it's economical and we have the money for it. I would hope that we would be able to get the right answers as we go through all of this from the right people. But I think it's important for the board members to be visible on campus so they know what all is going on, and they also be visible in the community so you know if these workforce requirements are coming in, they're legitimate. And I think we should be there to meet the workforce requirements too.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas?
Me?
Oh, sorry. Mr. Mark Douglas.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, I think as a trustee, you have to be on campus, like Leonard said, and ask questions on what do you need, what would be the advantage of this and that and the other. And also, you need to be out in the community as much as you can and listen to business leaders. What do they need in their businesses for employees or whatever? And maybe we can design programs to keep those students here in Southwest Kansas.
Thank you. Coach Larson?
Once again, I rely on my history with the college. I know Dr. Ballantyne always was looking for the next big thing coming that business might need, and just like Mark was saying, just so that we could maybe prepare students ahead of the game so that they don't have to wait a year or a year and a half to be able to hire someone. I think Dr. Ruda does the very same thing, always looking for opportunities. And again, if we're looking about how they want to engage with the stakeholders, I think they just have to, come to people that are on the board and let their wishes be known as well, so that can be carried on to the president.
Mr. Hines, same question.
Yeah, I think you need to be on campus. You also need to be out in the business community. You need to be, you got Findlay County Economic Development. You've got the chamber. You have a number of other organizations and business leaders in the community that you certainly can reach out to and see the needs of the community. It is Garden City Community College. And what are the workforce issues? What are the workforce needs out here? I recall several years ago, they opened the welding program. I remember the chamber had a ribbon cutting there. That was one thing that I think did a lot, and I did talk to a number of folks about how well, I start to say kids, young adults go into that, and how well they come out prepared for the workforce, as well as I just was talking to some folks the other day about I know it's not called the John Deere program, the ag equipment, but the John Deere program. And those young folks that come out there, they know what they're doing and do a good job with that. So I just think it's being involved in the campus, being involved with community leaders, being involved in organizations in the city of Garden City that you know what's going on and you know the needs of the community and the college.
Thank you. Dr. Rossinger, same question.
Thank you. I will tell you, this is a tougher than you think, because this is something that the board has been struggling with, because how do you engage with the whole community? You miss little groups here and there. Do you getting out to everybody? We can go to civic groups, we can go to the chamber, but there's still those areas that probably are missed. And just being out there, we all have our niches. We all have people that we talk to, different and one and alike. We have capabilities of reaching out to the board members, forms, things like that, they just don't seem to work, and I don't know why. And that's a question that we are trying to answer, but I truly believe the only way is asking people, just straight out asking people, what do you think's going on with college? How's things going? Because they probably won't bring it up until you bring it up with them. And then they're happy to start talking about it. But I think just getting out there, but as far as workforce development and getting with that, we work strongly with Finney County EcoDevo. We have a representative that works with, on the board with them and helps with hopefully new businesses that are looking to move to Garden City. But absolutely, just getting out there to people. We're part of the chamber and trying to get with breakfasts and things like that, talking to people. It really does come down to just talking and trying to get people to break down their barriers and, hey, tell us what's going on, because that's the most important thing as our owners.
Thank you. Dr. Marilyn Douglas.
Dr. Rossinger is right. It is one of the toughest things that we have addressed as a board, and we never feel like we're doing enough. I will admit it. We just never feel like we're doing enough. We have a web page where people can enter a comment if they have something on our site. And when everything's going good, you never hear anything. So the things that we have done so far, each of our board members are going to be attending the advisory committees of the programs on campus, so that we can hear from some of those business owners. I have thought about this for a long time. I think that we need to reach out to churches, to cultural places. We need to go out to Martin's Trailer Court and somehow engage with some of those folks, so that we are not only hitting business people, but we are hitting our community, and we want to hear what their needs are. And especially in communities that are of different ethnicities, that are different economic backgrounds. We need to be catching some of those folks as well. So we got to keep looking at it.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. We'll move on to our 7th question. What is the role of the board in determining if a program should be implemented, expanded, or eliminated? And we'll begin with Mr. Mark Douglas.
Okay, I think the first thing you have to look at is enrollment. Are there enough students to, so to speak, pay for itself? And if not, then you can't keep throwing money at something that's not paying for itself. Or if you can't find scholarships or grants or something to keep it open, you pretty much have to shut it down. Because if there's not interest in it, there's no reason to keep it. Spend that money somewhere else and try something else.
Thank you. Coach Larson?
I was just saying, can I just go ditto?
Mr. Hind?
That is exactly right. If you have a program, then there's not enough students involved to pay for it. It makes it very difficult, in my opinion.
Mr. Mark Hind?
I just went through some training through the Kansas Leadership Center, and one thing they talk about is technical problems and adaptive problems. And the adaptive problems are things that you just don't have an answer for. So what we do as businesses, and the college as a business, you experiment. And I'm not saying you just go out and do crazy experiments, but you have these discussions. So do we have the need for this program? Do we have enough students that will be enrolled in at some point in time? Yeah, you're going to have to. If you don't, then you have to decide what you're going to do. And of course, if you don't have the money coming in, or you don't have a grant coming in, tuition, whatever it is, at some point you have to cut your losses and decide that wasn't something. Hey, we did. It didn't work, but we're going to move forward. So I just think it's one of those things you got to look at in that fashion.
Thank you. Dr. Rossinger?
Thank you. This kind of goes back to policy governance. A lot of these do. Quite honestly, we rely on the president and his administration staff to give us the yay, nay, or of a program, and it's really not it's not the board's decision initially to get rid of a program. But you're right. I mean, enrollment's the fiscal responsibility, whether it's upgrades or whatever that case may be, recruitment issue. Sometimes it's a good program, we just don't have the right faculty or an individual there. So that's obviously all those key points to it. But really it does come down to the president and administration forming together a report and saying, this is why we need to keep it, or this is why we should go after this. And he has the data to back it up. And we have to rely on our president and the administration to say, yes, we're behind you 100%, and that's why we're going to get rid of this program, or that's why we're going to add this program. And that's why we pay the president to do those things, to carry out those things, because that is his job. That's not the board's decision. We back them up with the data that they provide to us.
Thank you. Dr. Douglas.
I would agree with Dr. Rossinger. This is not our decision. And we charge the president to do program reviews. Each program is reviewed every 5 years. There are lots of criteria that they use to make that judgment. Me as a nurse and other business people don't have the knowledge to understand all of those criteria. So we rely on the president to make those decisions. And it is charged in HLC again. I'm going to go back to that as part of the recommendations from the last accreditation, is that we need to be conducting program reviews on a scheduled basis and talk about what happens at the board, but in that discussion, we rely heavily on President Ruta's interpretation and decision.
Thank you. Mr. Hitz.
Well, first thing you want to know, is it paying for itself? If it's not paying for itself, you probably ought to get rid of it. But I would disagree to a certain extent, because I don't think sometimes it's just up to the president. If you're out in the public and you have people complaining about something that for some reason isn't working or is causing a problem in the community, it is your responsibility to get involved and get to the president with the facts and figures that say this program has to be continued or it has to be done away with. Having taught night school 3 nights a week for 3 years, there were times that if we didn't have enough students enrolled, we didn't have the class. And that was one of those deals where if it didn't pay for itself, it wasn't there. I think that we can sometimes overemphasize that it's just up to the president, and I don't go along with that so much. And that's one of the disagreements that I have with the policy governance. I think it sometimes gets too diluted with allowing the president to do everything without our oversight.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. What role should trustees take in strategic planning and setting the vision for the future of the college? And we begin with Coach Robert Larson.
Well, once again, I believe that through the policy governance, I mean, we have one employee, and so I believe that in this day and age, those plans, it's not going to be something that should come from one of us or one of the group to say. I think it has to be more, just like Dr. Douglas was saying. I mean, those are people that should know what's coming at us, and have a plan of attack for each and every strategic plan that comes up. But to say that would be dependent upon the board, I think would be a slight overstatement. I think we can work together as a group to make something happen, but not as an individual.
Thank you. Mr. Markind.
Could you repeat the question?
What role should trustees take in strategic planning and setting the vision for the future of the college?
I think the board has some responsibility here, but that's going to be, I think, the administration in working with them to do that. I would also assume, shouldn't assume anything. I also would think that the college itself and the different departments would be a part of some sort of strategic planning with the administration, and then the board brought in at some point on this. I'm not sure exactly if that's how they're working it right now, but I do believe you have a little bit of a role in this. I do believe that you want to know where you're going. I do believe that we would want to at least express views, opinions, and so on. And that's usually being done with someone moderating or facilitating that process, not necessarily just the president of the college, but someone else doing that for the administration and the board themselves.
Thank you. Dr. Rossinger.
Thank you. Actually, I think there's kind of two parts to that. The vision is absolutely crucial for the board. That's our purpose for there, to look 5 years, 10 years down the road of where this college is going to be or where we'd like it to be. The neat thing is that's the vision. Day-to-day operations is administration, and kind of right in between there, I feel like, is the strategic planning, where we mesh the day-to-day stuff with also the vision and how we're going to come to that 5 year or 10 years. So strategic planning, I think in the past, at least I feel like we haven't been much a part of it. We've had this vision of things, but this actual workings of the strategic planning, I don't think have been there. But we have made gains on that, and we do have a little bit more plans of attack to be part of the strategic planning process, get the input from the board. But there's things that we have to do every single year, or that we have a plan of pillars that's working through, for the next 7 or 10 years. But that is really the where the administration and the board can come together and say, this is how we're going to grow it. This is going to meet your needs from the day-to-day side, but it's going to meet our needs as a vision. But as a board, we have to just stay, that's policy governance again, it has to stay focused on the vision. Can't do the day-to-day stuff. We can get over into that strategic planning, but we have to keep our eyes on the prize, which is that vision of what we want the college to do, whether that's grow students or money or whatever the case may be.
Thank you, Dr. Rossinger. Dr. Douglas?
Yeah, so I think strategic planning has several points to it, and vision is the first one, and the board is responsible for establishing the vision. I agree with that, and that is looking out into the future and saying we want to grow the college, we want programs to flourish, but the other aspects of strategic planning are looking at the needs of the campus, bricks and mortar or staffing, and be mindful of that. Quality improvement is another piece of strategic planning, and that's a piece that we get reports back on in what's going on as far as our students graduating, our students being counseled. It is our job to maintain fiscal stability as we administer the strategic plan, and all of that again falls down to HLC accreditation. So that's our board responsibility to participate in that. Thank you.
Mr. Hitz, you're next.
I think the board should take an active role in vision with whatever is coming down the pike. 4 or 5 years ago, whenever one of the last attack ads they ran on me, they said that I wanted to turn the college into a trade school because I advocated more tech schools. Well, where are we going today? Look what's happening with tech schools throughout this country. A lot of them, colleges are getting more and more tech schools. And I think that's one thing that we should be looking at. I have been in situations where a man came up and had a card and said, we want to get involved, and he was in agriculture. Agriculture is the future here, and that's what we need to be looking at. It's not something that we can just automatically do, but I've always been an advocate of expanding our tech schools to where those people who don't particularly want to go to college can go out and have a trade that gives them a good living, and they don't have to worry about it. I think it should be an active role. If we're on board members, we should be looking at the future as well as our president and everybody else. And when we see something, we need to make it known.
Thank you. Ms. Douglas?
Okay. Well, I agree with Leonard. I think that in my business, we don't have anybody coming in and applying anymore. So I think, and I talked to a lot of people in the construction trade, they're having the same problem. They just don't have people coming into the trade because they don't want to or they don't know how to do it. So I think it's very important that we do start adding more of the technical programs that I think will help that. And I do believe that it's the board's responsibility for vision. And if that means starting something or stopping something, that's what we do.
Thank you. We'll go on to our ninth, second to last question for your mental health.
Thanks.
Many colleges in Kansas have recently implemented a tobacco-free policy. What is your opinion regarding public health policies such as this and its ability to help improve community health and the quality of life for students and staff? We'll begin with Mark Hind.
A tobacco-free campus would be fine with me. I think that we all know that tobacco is not healthy for folks. Hey, if you still choose to smoke or chew or whatever, you can do that in your own space, which is not a part of the college. So I would be supportive of that if the college were to do that, and I'm supportive of that other colleges doing it as well. I know we did that, or the Garden City Recreation Commission did it, hey, back when I coached teams, and that's been a long time ago, but in coaching kids, we did not, and we're not allowed to. No one had tobacco in the facility, so that'd be very supportive of that.
Thank you. Dr. Rossinger?
Thank you. This has been another debatable topic, and I think we can all assume, and even people that smoke know that it's bad for you. It's not good for you. It causes cancer. However, the question I think comes down to is how can you enforce it on campus? You've got people coming to watch games, and they're going to choose their right to smoke. And you can post signs, but are you going to give them a ticket? Are you going to expect them to pay, or what's the fine? There's a lot of aspects to it. It's not as just as simple. I don't smoke, I don't chew, so I have no problem with it. I would absolutely say that that we should go away from it. But again, the problem is we're talking about our owners and what our owners want, and we do have owners that want to smoke, and we have employees that want to smoke. It's really difficult. Am I in favor of doing away with tobacco on campus? Absolutely. I would just like to know how we can enforce it. And quite honestly, we just haven't came to a sound decision. It is charged with the president to create a health and safe environment. It's also a slippery slope. What do you do then? Take away pop and things like that. So I wish I could give you a better answer than that. I favor it. I just don't know how to enforce it.
Thank you. Dr. Marilyn Douglas.
Dr. Rossinger hit the nail on the head there. The difficulties enforcing it. We've had this in this conversation several times. We've received requests from the community to have tobacco-free campus, but it's just difficult to enforce. I think we just keep educating. We keep educating and pushing the fact that any kind of tobacco can cause cancer. And if anybody has any other ideas, man, I'm open for it.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard Hitz.
I was one that voted against allowing alcohol on campus. I got voted down by the board 4-2. I've been opposed to having tobacco on campus forever. Again, enforcing it, the problem, we can enforce it if we would just enforce it, but we won't enforce it. As Mr. Larson knows, driving the school bus, you're gonna have a lot of those athletes are gonna have chew in their mouth. They got spit cups constantly. It's a battle. You tell them don't do it, but they still do it. If you gotta have a rule, and I think it should have a rule, but you gotta have an enforcement behind it, and you gotta enforce it once you make the rule. You can't back off. If you are doing it and you're against the rule, I don't know what the penalty should be, but there should be a penalty if they don't follow the rule.
Thank you, Mr. Hitz. Mr. Mark Douglas.
Okay. I tend to agree that enforcement is going to be impossible. I mean, the amount of time it would take for the campus to be monitored during school, sporting events. How do you monitor that? And what is the penalty going to be? Is that going to be up to the trustees to decide? You get caught, it's $100 or whatever. So I think keeping it out of the buildings is definitely a necessity. But I think there should be smoking areas, especially for people that are coming from out of town on our campus that do smoke, because they're going to do it. So I think if we can at least make it more visible where they can and can't do it, that would be what I would approve.
Thank you. Coach Larson.
Well, I just have to concur with everyone. I mean, it really is a bad habit to get into. I think there's no one that would say that tobacco is good for you. But, you know, the ability to peruse and find people, not a top priority. Again, I would think it's just very difficult to do. Mark's idea of having smoke areas might be definitely keep it out of the buildings as it is right now. But I am a proponent of a tobacco-free campus.
Thank you. We'll spare you the last question in the interest of time. This concludes the Q&A. Candidates, we thank each of you for your time and willingness to be part of the event and to put your names forth on the ballot. At this time, we'll invite each of you to provide a 2-minute closing statement, beginning with Mr. Leonard Hitz.
I'm running for the board not for any personal ego, and I'm not building a resume. I'm running because I care about Garden City Community College. It's a very vital part of the economy of Garden City and Finney County. It's important that our owners know that it needs to stay vital. I believe in transparency. I think that the voters need to know what all's going on. And there are lawsuits that are pending against the college. These suits are of record. They're filed in the United States District Court for the District of Kansas. I think the voters should be informed, and I think they should know who and what are named on those lawsuits. Then it's the informed voter that they should make their decision and determine if they think they are justified.
Thank you, Ms. Hitz. Mr. Barkind.
First, I'd like to thank the Garden City Area Chamber of Commerce, the Government Affairs Committee. A special thank you to Dr. Clifford for moderating this candidate forum tonight. I know this takes time and effort. I want to thank you all. I'd also like to thank those of you who are here in person, as well as those folks that are watching on Facebook and Channel 8. Thank you for taking time to become an informed voter. Advanced voting in person begins October 18th, ends November 1st at 12 p.m. noon. And in closing, I want to be elected to the Garden City College's Community Board of Trustees to serve the community, to give back to the community that has been so good to me and my family. I want to be a part of that college. I want to be a small part that helps people to succeed, to make a better life for themselves, their families, and the community. I believe I can be an asset to the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees, using my knowledge, expertise, experience, and wisdom. I appreciate your support and vote, and thank you. One last thing I have to say, I was truly disappointed Saturday morning, and Mark brought this up earlier at the beginning, truly disappointed Saturday morning when I got the text, Leonard and Mark, and then the billboards that are out there. I hope and pray that the voters of Garden City, Finney County, decide upon the merit of the individuals here and pay no attention to the smear campaign that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hind. Mr. Mark Douglas.
First of all, I also want to thank the Chamber for putting on this forum. I know with my experience in business and being involved in and around the college for 40 years, I think I have a vision and a passion for Garden City Community College. The biggest problem I think that we have is there's 53 higher learning institutions in the state of Kansas. 19 of those are junior colleges. So we have 18 competitors, so to speak, vying for every high school graduate. So I think we have to provide the best faculty, facilities, and support that we can for every student that comes to Garden City Community College. And I would appreciate any vote that I get. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Dr. Blake Rossinger.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Listen, I'm blessed. Most people around my age don't have opportunities to do things like this, but when I do things, I do it at 110%. It's kind of a fault, my wife would say, because I'm all in all the time. I continue to learn. Tomorrow we're headed out to an ACCT conference. I've been to an HLC site review or the hearing. I've been to HLC conference. I've been to other ACCT conferences. I want Garden City Community College and the needs of Garden City Community College of Southwest Kansas, not for Eastern Kansas. I want to keep building relationships and networks and keep our local governing board, which I think is essential. We keep working with KACCT to hear our voice up in Topeka, but I look at every vote objectively, try to look at the goods and the bads. I know I'm not going to make everybody happy. I know there's going to be people that don't understand. My door is always open. I always tell people, come have a conversation with me, email me. I try to be responsive. I try to get back in touch with people. It's just something I like to do. I like to be a part of anything, organizations, help out, give out my knowledge of what knowledge I have, try to be an influence on people, and give them guidance and direction. Of course, education has opened up the doors for me. I've been through a lot over the last 4 years, up and down. We transitioned a new president. I learned a lot from him. Like I said, I really and thoroughly enjoy being on this board, and I think I still have something to offer. I still enjoy going to the meetings. I still think that there's something for me to learn, and that's why I continue to keep running.
Thank you, Coach Robert Larson.
Thank you very much. Let it be known that I am not a politician. You won't see my name on any yard sign throughout the city. I believe that my actions and my reputations will speak for itself. I'm a strong believer in civic duty. You'll always know where I stand on issues concerning this college. If you're a taxpayer and live in Finney County, you own this college. And I will never do anything anonymously or hide behind a PAC group as the people that are attacking Leonard Hitz and Mark Douglas are doing. I would like it to be known that Leonard served 6 years in the Marine Corps, serving his country so that we would have the freedom of speech. It's my opinion that no one should use freedom of speech to spread lies, rumors, and innuendos. I would like to thank the Chamber for this group tonight, for everything it takes to put it together, and I'd like to thank you all for coming and your time for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Larson. Dr. Marilyn Douglas, you have the last word.
Eleanor Roosevelt was a pretty cool lady. She had several quotes. She was a journalist as well as an activist for human rights and for women's equality. But this quote resonates with me. When you decided what you believe, what you feel must be done, have the courage to stand alone and be counted. I believe that Ms. Roosevelt felt alone a lot of times because she was a woman in politics, and that was an unusual thing back then. She was a first lady for 12 years, and she often spoke for her husband, President Franklin Roosevelt. For me, this quote resonates the call to stand up for what you believe in. And I believe in the value of Garden City Community College for this community, and I am proud that I have served 12 years as a trustee. I believe that the service of the board is an integral part for Garden City Community College success. Student success is going to be defined differently as we move forward, and I want to be a part of that. We've learned a lot through conferences from ACCT. I would appreciate your vote and to continue as a trustee, to continue working in those new directions and continue to provide education and training to positive contributors to the social and economic well-being of our society. Thanks, everybody, for attending. We appreciate your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes tonight's program. I'd like our studio audience to join me in thanking our candidates for their time. This forum will be rebroadcast throughout the month preceding the November 2nd election. It will be on Channel 8 and the Facebook page of the Chamber. I would like to thank the city for their help in running the program. The election is Tuesday, November 3rd, and voter registration ends tomorrow. The 2nd, sorry, Marilyn. Voter registration ends tomorrow, October 12th. We encourage everyone to get out and vote. Thank you and good night.